Hello, hello, hello. Good to see everybody. I'm Robin Smith and the founder of the Healthy Relationship Sisterhood. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We are here on our Thursday night live, and I'm going to speak about integrity tonight. So put a hand up if integrity is a subject that interests you. And if you're here, let me know where you are listening from. I've learned so much about integrity over the years. And so let's start with a definition of integrity and then what it looks like to live in integrity, and then why you might want to live in integrity, and also what some examples are of not living in integrity. So, welcome if you're just joining us, and I'm going to dive into this. So, let's talk about like what integrity might mean. Of course, we have all probably know the word, but we might have different ideas about it. Um, so here's a definition: living in alignment with your values. That's how I think of it. Standing for what you know is true, a sense of wholeness, completion, or integration. When you think of when a building has integrity, right? It's like it's strong and it's lined up well. The parts are lined up, stacked well, so it's solid. It's not going to fall down with its slamming of a door, right? It's going to hold true. It's going to be steadfast. So when we have integrity in our lives, when we live from a place of integrity, what we get is a feeling of wholeness. We get a feeling of completion, like we're not leaving something out. We get a feeling of integration, like the parts are connected to the whole. So write that down. The parts are connected to the whole. We feel the wholeness because the parts are integrated. It's not like you've got these parts that do this and those parts over there doing that. They're working coherently. They're working together. So that's, what integrity, different ways of thinking about integrity in your life. And let's talk now about why integrity, living in integrity, might be so important. For me, what I've noticed is that when I'm in integrity with myself and with others that I want to be in integrity with, which is everybody, I feel more ease inside of myself and more flow between me and others and internally inside of me. When I'm in integrity, energy opens up. I feel a easier flow of energy moving through me instead of the alternative, which is when I'm not in integrity, there's like a kink in the hose. Energy cannot flow through it. Also, a sense of being stuck or clogged that might have tension and along with it, or feeling closed or shut down. So put in the comments when you're watching, if it's live or later, that's fine. Put in the comments what you notice on both sides of integrity. When you feel like you're in integrity, what do you feel internally? And also when you know you're not in integrity, what does that feel like to you? I'm just coming in to see if there's any comments yet. And if when you're chiming in, watching, whether it's now or on the replay, go ahead and say hi and where you're from. It's so cool to see where people are joining us from. So let's talk about different aspects of integrity and how to, live more in integrity. So what I hear a lot from my clients in areas of lacking integrity is internally when you do something that you don't actually want to do. You like saying yes when you actually want to say no. So that's a really great example that's a great example of not being in integrity with yourself. You have this internal response that says, no, I don't want to do it. That doesn't feel right to me. But maybe instead you say yes in order to be liked, in order to please somebody, in order to go with the flow, whatever your reasons might be. But internally, you're feeling this like, ugh, maybe fear, maybe angry at yourself for not honoring your own needs or limitations. Maybe you're feeling that kind of contraction or stuck energy inside. So there's one example of not honoring yourself, your own desires. Another example might be keeping a secret for somebody. Somebody recently asked me to do that. I'm telling you this and I don't want you to tell anybody else. And, that's confidentiality. And I totally understand the need for that. And I'm pretty good about that. But it also can be tricky sometimes because we don't always remember what we're, information we're supposed to, retain and what can be shared. And so it can get a little messy, right? Because our memories don't hold everything we've been told all the time. Um, and so then if we're agreeing to keep a secret or withhold information that we know maybe someone else should know, or maybe that we know that we're not going to remember, then that's like we're not being in integrity with ourselves because we know we might not be able to hold that information. So that's another one. And just so you know, if you are working with me as a client, that is, I do not share your information. I don't give away your identity. So that part I'm really good at. But consider that for yourself, like how that feels when someone says, you know, um, don't tell so and so I told you this, right? So they're wanting you to keep a secret from somebody else in particular, and how that feels. And the kind of, for me, I get a little anxious about that because, like, oh gosh, I hope I don't mess up. I hope I remember. And so sometimes it's better not to agree to do that. Um, if you don't think you can be in integrity, right? You may mess it up. So that's another example. Another one is when you have your own secrets. So withholding information from the people that it would really concern, who would really like to know that or that would affect them, when you hide or withhold information, then, again, I feel like that creates a kink in the system, like a contraction and a pulling back. And it limits the flow between you because you're holding back some important information. So that's another example of being out of integrity because you're not fully sharing the truth. So integrity would include communicating the truth, right? Communicating how you feel, not hiding how you feel. So regarding your emotions, sharing what's true emotionally, sharing what's true factually when that it concerns that person. Of course, we don't have to tell everybody every truth, but to consider, am I withholding some important information from this person that they probably should know or have the right to know? Um, so when we hold back part of the truth, then we're not being in integrity. When we don't take full responsibility for our actions or our words. I was speaking with somebody recently who is a landlord to her friends. So her friends are living in her apartment, and her friends wanted to give, instead of 30 days notice, they wanted to give 21 days notice, even though their lease agreement said they would give 30 days notice and pay for that 30 days. They wanted a free week on their rent. And because it was their friend they were renting from, they thought that should be fair. And of course, that put the landlord friend in a difficult position to where, you know, she was going to be left holding the bag, so to speak, paying the rent that she was expecting them to pay. So they were getting out of their responsibility. They weren't taking their full share of their responsibility. They had signed an agreement. And so anytime there's a break of an agreement, there's a break in integrity, because agreements are about holding integrity, creating a safety, a container, an understanding together. And if there's agreements broken, then that's breaking, then there's a lack of integrity in keeping up your agreement. It doesn't mean you can't change an agreement. Of course, you can say, I want to change that agreement, and you can try to negotiate. But if you outright break an agreement, you're not in integrity. So it's really important to look at that, because sometimes we have many agreements that we make. I'll take out the trash on Sunday, or I'll be home by 7, or I'll call you when I'm at the store, or little things, and then if we don't follow through, someone's expecting that, it's just a setup for frustration or anger or an argument. and because we're not keeping our end of the bargain, our side of the agreement. So let me know if you have any comments or questions as we're going. I'm so happy to interact with you about this. I think this is really juicy stuff. Um, so other aspects of integrity might be around, um, yeah, other aspects of responsibility. So we are fully responsible for our own actions and words that come out of our mouths. Nobody else could be, right? They can't make us say anything. They can't make us feel anything. They can't make us do anything. But when we aren't willing to take responsibility for that, when we're trying to push that responsibility onto someone else, then we are out of integrity. So, responsibility and taking full responsibility for yourself is an important part of being in integrity. And responsibility is that owning your part. We talked about this recently in the Get Heard training. If you were part of that, is owning your part about what's yours, what you did, what you said, what you want. So hopefully this is making sense, and I'm going to go on for a little bit longer, and then we'll sign off if there's no comments or questions. Communication is another area. So I talked about not withholding information, not keeping secrets, and then the other side of that would be um, not speaking in non-truth, right? So speaking the whole truth and speaking in a way that you can be heard, speaking in a way where you're taking responsibility for yourself, which we also talked about in the Get Heard training, and speaking honestly about your experience. So instead of speaking about someone else's experience, instead of adding blame into your communication, it's just really owning again. So speaking the what we call the unarguable truth, that part of the truth that really is yours and nobody else's to own. So we've got different areas of integrity that I think are really important to include in an experience of wholeness for ourselves, an experience of being in the flow and being an aligned living. So I'm going to speak about one more area here. And then we'll see again if there's any comments or questions. I'm looking down because I have my phone over here. So I've got the Facebook Live open so I can see if you're commenting. So another area of integrity that I like to explore is it's similar to what I was talking about in the yes/no conversation. When you're honoring your inner yes and your no, you're saying yes when you want to and no when you want to. So that's part of that is lining up with what you want. So your desires. So when you know what you want, when you know what feels in alignment, like how you want to spend your time, who you want to spend your time with, then you can more easily honor that, right? And then when you honor that, you're in integrity with yourself. You're saying yes to what feels right to say yes to. But when you don't know what that is you want and need, and then you're less likely to, be able to clarify what your yes and your no is. And so when you override your yes or no, you say what you think others want you to say, you say what you think you should want, but it doesn't feel true, then you're in that zone again of not being in full integrity, and you can feel it in your body. I said yes to that, but I actually don't really want to do that. Or I felt myself wanting to stop, like say, stop working or stop, gardening or hiking or whatever you're doing. I felt that urge in me, that voice in me that said it's time to stop, and I didn't listen to it. That's when we're not honoring ourselves, right? We're out of integrity with ourselves. And what we get through that lack of integrity with ourselves is we get a feeling and a kind of an experience of not being reliable for ourselves, not honoring ourselves. So then it's like we break our own trust in ourselves. I can't trust myself to stop when I need to stop because I just override it and I keep going, right? I can't trust myself to rest when I need to rest because I keep pushing myself. These are some examples of not honoring your desires and what internally you feel is right for you. You override it because for whatever reason I need to get more done, or they're going to be mad at me if I don't continue, or whatever reason. And then we feel, we're more likely to feel bad about ourselves when we do that, because we didn't honor what we knew was true or what we felt we needed and wanted. So hopefully I'm making sense. And I'd love to know if you have any comments or questions. And it's totally fine to ask those after the live ends. I love to come back and know what you have to say and answer and respond. So please do. So I think we're going to wrap it up here in a few minutes. We are talking about integrity and the different ways that shows up in our lives, through our communication, through our actions, and honoring ourselves or not, and then communication, and integrity of responsibility. So being responsible, following through on our agreements, um, following through on ourselves. So lots of ways integrity might show up, and we've talked about integrity as creating wholeness, as being about, as an experience of wholeness and integration where the parts are connected. Um, So let me know again if I can shed any more light on this, if there's any questions. And thank you for listening. I really want to encourage you to consider everything I've just said, and really ask yourself, are there places where I'm not in full integrity with myself? Where could I shore up my integrity, like helping that building be, more solid? Like, where can I make myself help myself to be more solid, so I don't have that tension or that contraction or that collapse in my system? Because the more we're in integrity with ourselves, the more we feel good about ourselves. I honored myself. I was true to myself, right? So I really want to support you in that, because it's a really important way to help yourself feel good. So again, thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. Let me know if I can support you further. And I hope you have a beautiful day or evening or whenever you are watching. Bye for now.